Let's start with the most fundamental, shocking truth. That path does not exist naturally. The idea of a pristine, self-forming trail is a fantasy. Every such path is carved, maintained, and governed by a constant, brutal negotiation of force. It begins with the megafauna, the elephants, the rhinos, the large jungle cattle. These are the civil engineers. An elephant doesn't wander aimlessly. It follows ancient migratory memory. A GPS encoded in generations, leading it to salt licks, water sources, and seasonal feeding grounds. Its immense weight, tens of thousands of pounds concentrated on 4 feet, acts as a living bulldozer. It tramples saplings, splinters smaller trees, and compacts the soil into a hard pan that smaller creatures find easier to traverse than the tangled undergrowth. This is the first draft of the path. But the elephant is not working alone. It is followed by the medium-sized contractors, tapirs, wild boar, deer. They widen the elephant's draft, nibbling at the vegetation on the edges, creating clearer boundaries. Then come the small mammals, civets, raccoon-like coatis, even large rodents like agoutis. They keep the floor clear of leaf litter and small debris as they forage, their tiny, constant movements acting like a street-sweeping crew. This hierarchy of construction is a non-negotiable law. Satellite data from the Amazon basin and Congo rainforest, analyzed by biomechanics researchers, shows a direct correlation between trail network complexity and the diversity of mammal body sizes in an area. No large engineers, no permanent paths. Just temporary, chaotic runs that disappear in a single rainy season. The path's width is therefore not random. Measure it. A path roughly 2 to 3 feet wide in a Southeast Asian jungle, for instance, almost certainly denotes a primary route for medium-sized ungulates and is regularly patrolled by a predator like a leopard that knows it's a prime hunting ground. A narrower, more overhung path might be a secretive route for reptiles like monitor lizards or foraging primates. The very air above the path is a specialized corridor. Butterflies and moths use these open channels for dispersal, as flying through dense canopy is energetically costly and physically dangerous. Bats use them as sonar-guided flyways at night. The path is a 3-dimensional transit zone. And at the very bottom in the compacted dirt lies another universe. The soil compaction changes water infiltration rates. Studies from the Borneo rainforest show that compacted trail soil can have a water infiltration rate up to 80% lower than the surrounding forest floor. This creates a micro-watershed, diverting tiny rivulets of rain along the path's edges, which in turn influences where certain moisture-loving plants, fungi, and insects can live. So before a single human or predator has stepped onto it, that narrow jungle path is already a masterpiece of collaborative, multi-species engineering, a living infrastructure project, written into the landscape by the daily commute of countless lives. It is a testament to a simple, brutal rule: the shortest, safest distance between 2 points of survival: food, water, shelter is not a straight line. It is a line of least resistance, constantly surveyed and paid for in calories and risk. And this is just the physical structure. The real story, the hidden war and communication happening on it, is where things get truly astonishing. You are looking at a narrow jungle path, a serene tunnel of green, and you feel a sense of peace. Your brain tells you it's a quiet escape, a simple trail through nature. I need you to forget that illusion immediately. What you are actually looking at is a high-stakes battlefield, a demographic map of desperation, and a meticulously maintained superhighway of survival where billions of transactions occur daily, and the penalty for a wrong turn is death. This is not a path, it is a document. Every curve, every exposed route, the very width of the trail, and the type of plants brushing your shoulders are recording data more precisely than any satellite. Think about that for a second. The ground beneath your feet, if you know how to read it, can tell you what animals live here, what they fear, what they eat when they last passed by, and even what the weather was like 6 months ago. This video is your decoder. We are going on a 5,000-word expedition into the layers of that single, narrow path. We will not just observe, we will forensically dismantle its secrets. And by the end, I promise you, you will never look at a forest trail, a garden path, or even a crack in the sidewalk the same way again. This is a call to change your perspective permanently. So if you're ready to have your mind rewired by the reality of the natural world, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because what we're about to uncover is the first chapter of a story most humans never learn, and you need to be here for all of it. Now let's step onto that compacted earth. You are not walking on dirt. You are walking on a dynamic ledger of fear, strategy, and chemical communication, so sophisticated it makes the internet look slow. This path is the main channel for the most critical information network in the jungle, the scent network. Every animal that uses this path is both a broadcaster and a receiver. They are leaving messages and reading the headlines written in urine, feces, glandular secretions, and even the microscopic cells shed from their feet. A tiger spraying a tree at a path junction isn't just marking territory, it is updating a public bulletin board. The message contains data on the individual's identity, sex, reproductive status, and even approximate time of posting, as the volatile compounds in the scent degrade at a predictable rate. Prey animals like sambar, deer, or wild pigs are not oblivious to this. They are obsessive readers. Their survival depends on it. They will sniff, snort, and investigate every scent post, building a real-time map of predator movements. Data from camera traps and hormone-level studies on prey species in India's Kanhan National Park show a direct link. When fresh predator scent is detected, prey animals show elevated stress hormones, alter their foraging patterns to less nutritious but safer areas, and increase their vigilance time by over 300%. The path becomes a psychological landscape. For a deer, a stretch of path that smells strongly of a leopard from 2 days ago is perceived as less dangerous than a fresher, fainter scent of a tiger from just a few hours ago. They're performing constant risk assessment calculus using their noses. But the communication is even more nuanced. Many herbivores use communal latrine sites near paths. This isn't mere sanitation, it's a social media feed. For animals like the capybara in South America, these sites are where individuals share information about group health, establish social hierarchies, and synchronize breeding cycles. The path facilitates this by providing the access route to the communal site. Furthermore, the path itself is a catalyst for plant communication. When a leaf is nibbled by an insect or crushed underfoot, many plants release airborne volatile organic compounds. These VOCs, studied extensively in laboratories simulating rainforest understories, are a form of plant-to-plant texting. They warn neighboring plants of the attack, prompting them to preemptively ramp up their production of defensive chemicals like tannins or alkaloids. So, a troop of monkeys moving down the path, breaking branches as they go, is inadvertently triggering a silent alarm system that ripples through the foliage on either side, priming the plants for defense minutes or even hours before the next herbivore arrives. This path is also the stage for botanical warfare. Lianas and creeping vines use the open space above the path as a bridge to cross from one tree to another, avoiding the dark, competitive forest floor. They are highwaymen of the canopy, often strangling the trees that host them. The path provides the gap they need to launch their invasion, and then there's the soundscape. The path acts as a natural sound tunnel. Low-frequency rumbles of elephants, which travel incredibly far through the ground, are channeled along the compacted soil. The whoops of gibbons or the calls of birds carry more cleanly down this open corridor. Animals use this to their advantage. A predator might move silently just inside the tree line, using the path to listen for the sounds of prey moving openly on the cleared ground. Conversely, A prey animal might pause at the edge of the path, listening intently down its length for the telltale crack of an approaching stalker before making the dangerous crossing. This makes every journey a tense exercise in acoustic vigilance. The data from bioacoustics monitors placed along versus away from trails in Central African rainforests shows a marked difference in the acoustic signatures. Paths have clearer, longer distance transmission of specific frequencies, essentially creating sound lanes. This invisible layer of chemical, biological, and acoustic data streaming along the path is the true lifeblood of the jungle. It is a continuous, real-time broadcast of survival information. To walk the path ignorantly is to be illiterate in the most important news feed on the planet. And yet, this complex, ancient network faces a paradox, a disruptive force that both creates and destroys. These pathways, a force that has rewritten the rules of the jungle for thousands of years, this is the turning point in our story, the moment the narrative of the jungle path collides head-on with human history. You see, that narrow, winding trail you're looking at, there is a statistically significant chance, backed by archaeological surveys, from the Amazon to the Congo, that you are not the first human to walk it. In fact, you are likely walking in the footsteps of hunters, traders, and migrants from centuries or even millennia past. The greatest myth of the untouched wilderness is shattered by the reality of the jungle path. For generations, indigenous communities have not just used these paths. They have been their principal architects and master curators, applying a form of ecological wisdom so advanced it is only now being understood by Western science as terra preta soils, anthropogenic forests, and traditional ecological knowledge. Their paths were never just routes from A to B. They were deliberate designs for ecosystem management. A path would be cleared to connect a village to a grove of Brazil nut trees, a species that thrives in human disturbed areas and whose abundance in parts of the Amazon is directly linked to ancient human settlement. The path would be maintained not with machinery, but with controlled use and small, targeted burns that cleared underbrush without harming the canopy giants, enriching the soil with charcoal and creating a mosaic of habitats that increased overall biodiversity. Satellite imagery analysis combined with on-ground archaeology has revealed vast geometric networks of trails and earthwork under the canopy of the Amazon, proving the forest was, in many places, a managed garden on a continental scale. The paths were the veins of this system. They facilitated the dispersal of useful plant seeds through intentional planting and through seeds discarded in waste or carried on clothing. Many of what we consider wild jungle fruit trees are actually historical markers of human campsites and trails. So, when you walk a narrow jungle path, you may be walking through an abandoned, overgrown orchard, but the human influence goes deeper than cultivation. The very behavior of animals changed in response to these ancient human pathways. Animals learned to associate certain human trails with lower predator density. As humans suppressed populations of large carnivores, they learned that some paths led to valuable resources like water or mineral licks that humans also valued. In a fascinating twist of coevolution, some species may have begun incorporating these reliable, well-maintained human trails into their own migratory routes. This created a feedback loop. Humans made trails. Animals used them. Humans then hunted animals on those same trails, which required maintaining them further. The path became a hybrid habitat, a zone of intersection between human and wild worlds. This historical layer is crucial to understanding the modern path's ecology. It explains why you often find a concentration of medicinal plants or fruit-bearing trees along what seems like a random game trail. It's not random, it's legacy. However, the modern human impact tells a darker, more disruptive story. The contemporary forces shaping jungle paths are no longer about integration but extraction and fragmentation. Logging roads are the grotesque, widened doppelgangers of our narrow path. They are cut with machinery, causing soil erosion that silences the subtle chemical and acoustic communications of the forest floor under layers of mud. They introduce edge effects, dramatic changes in light, temperature, and wind that penetrate hundreds of meters into the forest, allowing invasive species to march in along the road corridor and fundamentally altering the plant communities. These roads are catastrophic population dividers. Research from Southeast Asia shows that the density of wide roads is directly inversely proportional to the genetic diversity of species like clouded leopards and gibbons, as they cannot or will not cross these hostile openings. Our narrow ancient path connected life, the modern wide road often disconnects it. Furthermore, ecotourism, while well-intentioned, creates its own pressure. A single, popular hiking trail, if not carefully managed, can lead to soil overcompaction that kills tree roots, forces animals into nocturnal habits to avoid humans, and introduces foreign pathogens and seeds on the boots of visitors. The path, from being a central artery of a closed system, becomes a wound, a point of exposure to the outside world. This duality is the path's modern truth. It is both a testament to ancient, sustainable human coexistence with the jungle and a vulnerable front line against modern, unsustainable exploitation. To understand the path, you must see these two timelines superimposed: the slow, deliberate imprint of the past and the rapid, often scarring imprint of the present. And this clash is setting the stage for the most critical, invisible function the path now serves, a function that will determine the future of every jungle on Earth. Forget the romantic idea of the jungle as an impenetrable fortress. In the age of climate change and mass extinction, that narrow jungle path has become the most critical sensor network and climate refuge on the planet, and we are barely listening to it. This path, and the millions like it, form a capillary system that regulates the Earth's fever. Every leaf that overhangs the trail is a solar panel and a rainmaker. The transpiration from the plants along the path, the process of releasing water vapor from their leaves, is a fundamental driver of local and regional rainfall. Data from atmospheric studies over the Amazon demonstrates that forests create their own flying rivers of moisture, which supply rain to agricultural regions thousands of miles away. The path, by creating microgaps, influences airflow and humidity at a ground level, fostering the specific conditions needed for seed germination and fungal growth that sustain the forest's regenerative capacity. But more critically, the path is a living monitor of planetary health. Scientists are now using path transect surveys as a gold standard method for biodiversity monitoring. By systematically walking set paths and recording every animal sighting, track, or sign, they build population data sets over decades. The consistent, narrow footprint of the path allows for repeatable science. The data gathered on these humble trails is what tells us that Sumatran tiger populations have declined by a certain percentage, or that frog diversity in a Peruvian cloud forest is shifting uphill due to warming temperatures. The path is the clinic where the planet's vital signs are taken. Its compacted soil is a massive carbon sink. The organic matter woven into that soil holds carbon that would otherwise be in the atmosphere's CO2. When a path is widened into a road and that soil erodes, that carbon is released, the difference is quantifiable. Research published in Nature estimated that soil carbon loss from tropical deforestation and degradation, much of it initiated by road creation, contributes billions of tons of CO2 emissions annually. Therefore, the integrity of your narrow path is a frontline defense against climate change. Furthermore, the path acts as a climate corridor for species on the move. As global temperatures rise, species are migrating towards the poles or higher elevations to find suitable climates. A connected network of forest paths within a larger intact forest allows them to make this journey. A mouse, a snake, or even a slow-moving plant species dispersing its seeds can use these internal pathways to shift its range over generations. But if the forest is fragmented by roads and clear cuts, these paths become dead ends, trapping species in habitats that are becoming lethally warm. The path is thus an escape route for biodiversity. Perhaps the most profound modern function of the path is as a sanctuary for mutualisms, the cooperative partnerships between species that are the true foundation of the ecosystem. The path edge, with its gradient of light, is where many pollination relationships are most active. A specific hummingbird, whose beak co-evolved with a specific curved flower, relies on the clear flight path along the trail to access its food source. A particular ant species that defends a tree from vines uses the path as a patrol route. These intricate one-to-one relationships are highly vulnerable to disruption. A widened path changes light and wind patterns just enough that the flower doesn't bloom at the right time. The hummingbird goes elsewhere, and the relationship unravels. The narrow, dappled light environment of the traditional path protects these delicate interactions. In this way, the path is a museum of evolutionary history and a nursery for its future. It safeguards the fragile, cooperative agreements that make a rainforest not just a collection of plants and animals, but a single, interconnected superorganism. To destroy the subtle ecology of the path is to burn the library of life's greatest partnerships. Every time a trail is unnecessarily widened, paved, or turned into a road, we are not just clearing vegetation. We are severing neural pathways in the planet's brain, silencing its communication, and shutting down its cooling systems. This understanding forces a monumental responsibility upon anyone who now walks such a path. You are no longer a passive observer. You are a visitor in the control room of a planetary life support system. Your every action has consequences in this hypersensitive environment. And this leads us to the final, most important truth of all: what you must do now that you know. The knowledge you now hold is not passive. It is a manual for action, a lens through which you must now view your role on this planet. That narrow jungle path is a metaphor, a microscopic blueprint for the entire biosphere. It teaches us that everything is connected through intricate, purposeful pathways of energy, information, and life. Your backyard garden path, the tree-lined street in your city, the hiking trail in a national park, they are all expressions of the same principle. Life creates and maintains corridors for its own continuation. Your newfound understanding of the jungle path's hidden wars, its historical depth, its role as a climate sensor and refuge, imposes a duty. This is your final and most critical call to action. First, become a conscious path walker. Whenever you enter a natural space, any space with life, walk with intention. Stay on established trails. This isn't just about safety, it's about minimizing your footprint in the delicate communication network. Your wandering off-trail crushes countless chemical messages, destroys microhabitats, and introduces chaos into a system built on subtle, established routes. You are giant in that world. Act with the grace of a guest. Second, use your voice as a digital pathway. The data we discussed, the soil carbon loss, the genetic fragmentation from roads, the historical human management, this is the information that must flow. Share this video. Talk about these concepts. Make path ecology a talking point. When you hear about a new road being cut through a rainforest, you now understand the true cost. It's not just trees. It's severed neural connections, released carbon, and doomed mutualisms. Advocate for protected areas that are connected by wildlife corridors, essentially sanctioned protected jungle paths on a grand scale. Support indigenous land rights. The original path builders and forest curators are its best protectors. Data from the World Resources Institute shows that forests under indigenous stewardship have deforestation rates less than half of those in other areas. They are the guardians of the path network knowledge. Third, support science that listens to the path. Donate to or follow organizations that conduct bioacoustics monitoring, camera trap surveys, and soil carbon research. This is how we translate the path's silent language into actionable data for policymakers. Finally, and most importantly, internalize the principle of the path. In your own life, build connections, not barriers. Foster corridors for kindness, for information, for native plants in your community. Understand that your actions create trails that others, your children, your community, local wildlife will follow. The narrow jungle path endures because it is the most efficient, sustainable route for the flow of life. Let that principle guide your choices. Seek efficiency that honors complexity, build routes that connect rather than divide, and walk with a mindfulness that acknowledges the vast, invisible transactions happening beneath your feet and in the air around you. You came into this video seeing a simple, peaceful trail. You now leave knowing it is a battlefield, a library, a supercomputer, a historical archive, and a climate refuge. That shift in perception is the most powerful tool for conservation there is. When millions of people stop seeing a pretty path and start seeing a vital organ of the planet, policy changes, consumer behavior shifts, and real protection becomes possible. You are now one of those people. You are literate in the language of the path. This knowledge makes you an ambassador for the intricate, the connected, and the silent wonders of our world. The jungle path has shared its secrets with you. The question is, what will you do with them? The next step is yours. The path forward is clear. It is narrow, it is complex, and it is the only one that leads to a future where such wonders still exist. So, I am calling you to action one final time. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't, because we decode the world's hidden blueprints like this every week. Ring the bell so you don't miss a single revelation. But more importantly, share this video with one person today, just one who needs to see the world through this new lens. Start that conversation. Plant that seed. Become a pathway for this knowledge. Because the truth, like the most vital jungle path, must be kept open, traveled, and maintained, or it disappears forever, and with it, the profound, beautiful, interconnected world it sustains.